Welcome to the Embrace Strength podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Crocker. I am an experienced trainer and active life professional. I work with people who are struggling with nagging pain to get back to the activities they love without fear of re-injury. This podcast is here to educate and provide value to you on all things health, fitness, staying active, and personal development. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today I am talking about programming, and I will be speaking to coaches again this week because I am in the middle of my movement library launch, and I want to speak to you coaches about programming because a lot of you complain that programming takes a long time, myself included. Sometimes, okay? But you guys say that programming takes a long time, but I am here to challenge you and say programming doesn't take a long time. You're just extremely disorganized, okay? So I want to start off by saying, with the exception of when you first onboard a client, programming does not take that much time. But it is the number one complaint that I have heard out of coaches' mouths over the past 2 years that I have been mentoring you guys. Here are some things that you guys say and like what this sounds like. You say things like, I'm unsure if what I'm doing is right for my client. It just takes me so long to choose an exercise. I overthink everything. And then you waste so much time living in your head. And living in your head can look like researching, getting distracted by something else, procrastinating, thinking you need another certification. And basically, you're just wasting a lot of time and you're not doing the thing that you actually need. Something that I talked about with the coaches in my group program, Programming Through Pain, a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about creating programming for a client, I was talking about my process for like taking the results from assessments and testing and creating a program skeleton out of that before going to exercise selection. And I don't think a lot of coaches do this because you guys will take the results from assessments and testing and then go right to trying to choose exercises. And that approach can just get really confusing sometimes, and it's so much better if you first create a program skeleton. And what I mean by program skeleton is basically like, okay, I am looking at my like summary that I wrote from my assessments and testing with my client, and then I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what should their program look like over the course of a week? Okay, and it's going to depend on how many times a week your client is training. So are they going to be training 3 days a week or 4 days a week, or, whatever the frequency is, but, you have that, okay, day 1, day 2, day 3, this is the time that I have. And I'm like, okay, on day 1, I'm going to be doing a hinge pattern. And we're also going to include some core work because this client has a super weak core. And I want to make sure I also do some corrective exercises for their hip because they have hip pain, okay? Example, I write out that under day 1, okay? And then I'm like, okay, day 2, we're going to attack the shoulder pain. We're going to do some pushing. We're going to do some pulling and throw in some core work. And then on day 3, I want to make sure we're hinging again, hitting the hip pain again. You know what I mean? So like I'm writing all of that out before I'm even thinking about exercise selection because this is the skeleton of what your program is going to look like. And when it's organized like that, it makes your life way easier when you're trying to figure out like, okay, what exercise should I do on this day? Like, what am I trying to do again? Whatever. So anyways, do yourself a favor and start creating program skeletons. Okay, that's like number 1. But then number 2, if you have my movement library, that can also save you so much time, especially if you're somebody who like knows what you want going into this client's day one programming, for example. So if you already know, okay, I know I want a hinge pattern on this day, some core work, and some hip corrective exercises, you can open up the movement library, go to hinge pattern page. You have your list of some hinge pattern options there. You can go to the core work section, which is also broken up to beginner, intermediate, and advanced core work, depending on the level of your client. So you're like, okay, here's some beginner core work options because this person has a super weak core, like I should be doing things like this, okay? And then for their hip pain, okay, I'm gonna go to the hip tab in the corrective exercise section and see my options for some hip correctives that I could go for, okay? So yeah, basically like the movement library helps you organize your brain when you are trying to program for your client. And then it has the demo video links right next to the exercise. No more searching random YouTube channels, okay? Trying to sort through YouTube channels with 1,000, demo videos that are disorganized and you have a hard time finding anything. And also the demo videos have voiceover explanation, so you don't have to write an entire paragraph to your client about the things to remember to do an exercise. You should have to write much less without having that voiceover explanation there. So basically, the goal with the movement library is to have it be a one-stop shop for you so you can find exactly what you need when you're trying to program for your client instead of Googling or searching or wasting time, right? Like you have way better things to be doing, like helping your clients, right? You need to waste less time. So if this sounds like something that you need and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds exactly like a resource that I could really use, it is on pre-sale right now for $99 until November 30th, okay? If you reserve it during the pre-sale, then you will get sent your copy on its release date of December 6th, all right? I would highly recommend saving some money and just reserving your copy now. On December 1st, it is going to go up to $144, which is still a really great value. But if you know you want it, why don't you just save some money, right? So anyways, if you are interested in the movement library, I will put the link in the show notes to reserve your copy. I'll put a link to the landing page. If you're like, I need more information, I need to see it laid out in front of me, I'll put the link to the landing page in the show notes. And also I'll put a link to my Instagram if you want to DM me with any questions. All right. So I'm super excited for you. I hope you reserve your copy so you can save a shit ton of time while you're trying to get ahead on your programming for the holidays so you can actually take off for Christmas. Yeah. Alrighty. Thanks for listening. I'll chat with you next time.